Hi, it's Dale Obrochta for Unlocking the Secrets of Restaurant Entertainment. Today, I have a special interview with you, Michael Spremulli. Michael Spremulli. His clients often refer to him as a mind reader. Michael is a corporate personality profiler by day and an intuitive entertainer by night. For over 20 years, he's been a highly sought-after authority, helping business select the best applicants for any given position. His ability to predict and pinpoint accuracy, the probability of an applicant being successful in a position they're applying for. He is a featured keynote speaker. He has worked with countless businesses and entertained thousands of attendees at conventions and corporate events. His ability to tune into the finest details that the average person would normally ignore is truly remarkable and often unexplainable. Spremulli has taken his sharp, honed skills and highlighted sense of intuitive and packaged them into a riveting entertainment experience and keynote presentation. His ability to read your thoughts and influence your behavior is a way that truly pushes the limits of reality. He literally knows what's on your mind. Michael Spremulli.
Hey, Dale, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here. And yeah, at the end of the day, I am a profiler, but it's important to note the context in which that is being framed. I am a personality profiler who works for corporations, got clients scattered throughout the country, and my role is to help them predict which job applicants out of their top field is going to end up being the best fit for the role. So I use a variety of psychometric assessments to be able to predict things such as how well someone can sell, their ability to get along well with others, their cognitive horsepower. There are over 300 different factors that we can actually assess. So my role is to, again, make companies' jobs easier when it comes to identifying those top performing individuals so that they can make the best hires.
Well, and I met Michael in a mastermind class, and he started actually talking about what he does for a living. And it just blew me away as an entertainer because we meet so many people. And I always say a good entertainer can read a person fairly quickly if they're going to be friendly, if they're going to be cordial. And I don't know if these are signs that I've picked up and other entertainers have picked up over the years of just being able to read people, but you've actually gone to the science of understanding people.
Well, it's interesting because it's the science of things that got me into the entertainment side. So that's, by day, I'm a corporate personality profiler. By night, I'm a mentalist and mind reader. So I've got a corporate act that works the association, conference, convention type of arenas. And the two actually lend themselves very nicely to each other as far as complementing what one does for the other. So my assessment and profiling work has helped me become a better performer, and vice versa. The ability to perform actually helps me deal with clients more effectively, right, because I can connect and command their attention and make sure that they follow along and that they get what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That you get a perfect match right there.
I'll tell you this to anyone who's listening, it took me 20 years to find it. For years, I struggled to keep the two worlds as separate as possible. Then one day I woke up and said, what am I doing? Right. This is a perfect fit. It's okay if one side knows about the other side, and been doing that for several years and haven't looked back.
That actually happened, a similar story to me. I was a college instructor for 15 years, and nobody in the college knew I was an entertainer.
Right.
So I had to write up in the newspaper. And people put it on the post board and went, how long have you been doing this? I'm like, 20 years. I've only been teaching here 15.
Right.
So
right.
We try to separate things. But one of the reasons why I have you on here and I'm interviewing you is the ability, as an entertainer, especially a restaurant entertainer, we are meeting the general public all the time.
Absolutely.
And we are approaching people we don't know. I actually get this in my head all the time that when I do a private party, I'm going to somebody's house, and in the back of my head, I get this little weird thing. Will I be coming home tonight? What am I walking into?
There is that possibility, but so far so good.
There is that scary possibility, and you don't tell the family, you don't tell the kids, you just brave through it. But when you're walking up to a bunch of strangers, it could be very apprehensive for a beginner or even experienced person. Are there some clues that when you first meet somebody that you could get some quick feedback on their personality type, if they're outgoing, if they're aggressive. I know there's some body language, but is there some clues that maybe that as entertainers we never even thought of looking at?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, we met in a mastermind group where I did a real deep dive into personality and assessment and how to kind of size people up. But you don't even need that much in a restaurant situation. The first thing I would always encourage a restaurant performer to do is scan the room, look and see what's going on. I'll tell you a story that happened to me many, many, many years ago. I was dating my wife at the time, and we were at some restaurant, and they had a table hopper magician. Now, we were early into the relationship. It was like maybe date 2, maybe 3. The last thing I wanted or needed was someone coming by to show magic, even though I like magic. That was not the time. So I was doing everything in my power, as was my wife, kind of had our heads down. We were leaned in, talking to each other. And then all of a sudden, Joe McCarterson comes up and says, "Hey, you want to see something?" It's like, "No, dude, I don't. Get out of here." So I think you start there from the standpoint of scan the room, and you start to look for where you see some life and activity. And what I mean by that is, are there tables that seem to be having a good time, whether they're telling jokes or there's just a lot of energy there. Maybe it's a group of people out for a celebration, could be a bachelor or bachelorette party. Is there some energy in the room that you can then go explore and focus on to see if they'd be a good fit? Now, I don't want to say ignore anyone who is not creating a big hoopla at their table, because that's not exactly going to stand up 100% of the time either. Right. But you want to be very cautious of reading your room. A lot of times performers get so excited they want to show the next greatest trick that they just got off of xyzmagic.com that they just barrel in there and someone's not interested. So watch to see what's going on, and depending on the type of performer that you are, if you're a kids performer, if they've got children, that's probably a pretty easy entry. I would imagine you'd be very welcome there. I'm not a kid performer, so I can't technically speak to that. But if family's out with children and you're the magic, then that would probably be a good place to come by and touch base and see, hey, you want to experience some of what I do, and then offer to engage them in an effect or two.
Yeah, you're spot on with observing your environment. That's got a lot to go into.
It's so basic that you think everyone would know that as a performer. They don't. I mean, and this is certainly within grasp of anyone who speaks or performs or entertains in front of people. You can tell if someone's interested or not before you even walk up to the table a lot of the times. One of the ways, as I mentioned before, is of course the volume level. So that's number one. Another thing that could show whether or not people are interested is you mentioned body language. I'm not a body language expert, other than the fact that however much motion you see, and I know this looks terrible with the light, if people are waving their hands or there's a lot of animation, that could be a good sign that they're into having a good time. They're a bit more relaxed. They're not guarded, because people who tend to be more guarded and more introverted, they're going to have much narrow motion. They're not going to be as affected. You're not going to see as much variance in their tone of speech and the way that they carry themselves. So just by stepping back, and if we cut this interview off right now and didn't go any further, that's going to put people ahead of the game by knowing that they need to watch the room, look at people, and make an assessment. What is your gut telling you with regard to, should I go up to these people or maybe take a pass? Because here's what I've known, and I'll be very candid. I'm not a restaurant worker. I've certainly seen a lot of restaurant performers, but I've seen this happen in restaurants a lot, where someone who might not have been interested in having a performer stop by the table suddenly gets interested once they see another table having a good experience and a really good time. So that could soften the earth. And then, of course, if someone waves you over, well, that's the green light to go over there and, do 37 minutes. Well, no, not that long, but
that is spot on right there, because, I mean, just as you said, I scan the room. Whenever I walk in, I usually walk around a restaurant, see what's happening, what's going on, if there's a party or not. Subconsciously, I just take it in. But I could also recall the time where I'm working for an agent. Mm-hmm. The agent tells me, "Go out there, go." And I'm
Yeah.
I'm like sitting because it's all adults and I'm scanning the room just going, where is going to be my first acceptable person to walk up to?
Right.
Where's that first person that's going to accept me and want me and create a little buzz
Yep.
that creates the feed?
And something else too that I was thinking about as I was preparing for this interview, I think performers need to seriously ask themselves, are they cut out for restaurant work? I know for a fact that I am not. It's just not my bag. I'm not a close-up guy. I'm corporate and stage. That's what I like. That's what I tend to perform better at. I'm not a fan of restaurant work because I don't feel comfortable with it. It's not for me, and that's cool. Other people may not like larger stages. Other people may prefer different types of venues. So I think a bit of self-inspection or introspection is important to really ask yourself, hey, am I suited for this or not? Because for a while, in the early days, I said, yeah, this could be kind of fun, but then it just wasn't a good fit. I didn't feel comfortable. So there are probably some people watching this who may be doing that type of work right now who may not be suited for that type of work. And that goes, again, back to my profiling experience. And just because everyone and their brother's doing it doesn't mean that you should do it too.
Yeah, that is very true, because I come across, I deal with a lot of different entertainers, and
Sure.
I deal with face painters that work in restaurants. And
Okay.
I always look at the face painters and go, why don't you want to do a show? Because that could be something totally different. You bring people up, you paint them.
Yeah.
And
Nah.
almost everyone I've talked to is like, I don't want to be on stage.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know face painters. I don't know a single face painter, but I would imagine if they're more artistically driven, and this is not a blanket statement by any means, but if they're more introverted and prefer not to be in the spotlight, their work one-on-one is very rewarding. But if you put them on a stage, it's not going to be a good time for them or the audience because it's just not going to fit.
That's true. That's true. And then I've learned to kind of read people when I've met them, who would be best and who wouldn't be. But I want to go back to something that you said here with the hand gestures. I've
Yes.
never paid attention to that. I've never really paid attention to the volume that somebody's talking either.
Yeah.
That,
Well, and the reason those two are so helpful is because they're easy to spot. You can tell if someone's making a whole lot of gestures with their hands or speaking very loud. Now that could go the other direction too. If you go to a very boisterous table who's really involved and it's a reunion of people who haven't seen each other in 2 years, you're not going to perform there. They don't want to see you or me or anyone else. They want to talk and catch up, and that's cool. But all of this stuff is a starting point. And then you got to just use your head and make a judgment call. But hand gestures are big, volume is big. You probably won't see this. Well, you probably could actually. If you watch when people walk in to a restaurant to sit down, because I teach this from the platform as far as sizing people up without even interacting with them at first. Depending on how they come in and how they walk is another indicator. Some people just kind of bebop along at a very slow, gingerly pace. They're going to be more of your even-keeled type of personalities. They're going to be probably a bit more introverted, not necessarily looking for a whole big show, but they just kind of go nice and easy. They don't want to be rushed. Conversely, you'll have other people, when they enter the room. You could just tell. They come in and either they're walking at a quick pace, they're potentially domineering with their stature and the way that they stand. And that's someone who's going to be more inclined to want to see what you've got. Mm-hmm. They also are probably going to challenge you a little bit. And they may be a little bit of a challenging participant. But if you're prepared for that ahead of time, then you can be ready, should they start to act up a little bit, and then you can normally manage it.
You just blew my mind. I never thought of that again, because it's like people walk by. I really don't pay attention to it. They just kind of walk by.
Great place to check this out when you're online in Starbucks. When I go to Starbucks, and it's probably no secret that you figured out already that I'm pretty direct, bottom line, cut to the chase. They know my drink. They know who I am. They ask me 2 questions. How many? That's one question, but it's actually 2, meaning how many shots in the latte and how many pumps, because normally I'll do 3 shots, 1 pump of syrup. Some days I get crazy and go for 3 pumps, but I'm in and out of there in under 30 seconds. And you got other people who are there well, what's the difference between a latte and an espresso? And I want to wring their neck because it's just like, come on, I got places to go. So that when you start to look at everything, awareness is really the key, because people give you these signs, signals, and clues on a daily basis, but most of us aren't aware of them, and no one's ever taught it to us, and we don't know what to look for.
Michael, I mean, you just you painted a horror story in my head. As an entertainer, there's nothing like, especially doing balloons. You got this line of families and kids for, it feels like a block and a half,
Right.
twisting balloons, and you're there and you're trying to entertain, and you ask the kid, you know, what do you want? And they go, I don't know. What do you have?
Yeah.
and then almost it feels like 20 minutes goes by, and then the mom, once the child goes, I'll have a dog, and then the mom, before you could even say anything, the mom goes, and what color?
Oh.
No! I mean,
well, here's a tip that you can, like in that type of situation, if you're dealing with indecisive people, narrow their decisions for them. Would you like a dog, a cat, or a pineapple? If they look like if they're not coming up saying, I want this or that, give them 3 choices and then make them pick one, because that'll help them feel more comfortable, because now the heat is off of them having to come up with something totally out of the blue. And by the way, this stuff does apply to kids. Personalities start to form as soon as we appear on this earth. So while they're not clearly defined, you can spot, as you just said, spot someone who, a kid who can make a real quick decision versus those who want to mull it over, versus those who want to survey the whole room. What do you think I should get? Should I get this or that? So you start to piece these things together, and it enables you to save some time on that standpoint. I know when readers have approached me, people who read at psychic fairs and those types of things, let's say they do palmistry, numerology, and handwriting analysis. Some people come up and they know exactly what they want. Other people are like, well, I don't know. In those situations, my recommendation is say, you know, I'm getting a good sense you'd be a really good candidate for handwriting analysis. Boom. And basically you're making the choice now for them. And it just alleviates a lot of dead time.
I like the way you actually just subconsciously said, I think you would like, and you just put it out there for them.
Yep.
I have actually done that with kids who, you know, and it's the parents, once they go, and it's like I pull out pink going, you like pink, right? And the kid's like, yeah, I'll take the pink dog. It took you 30 minutes to say dog, but
right, exactly. But the color, yeah, we can take care of that in 10 seconds.
Right, we can do that. And I like the way you actually kind of suggested that when you are with a crowd that just can't make a decision, it's sometimes easier to put it out there.
Yeah, or another way of saying that is, I know the perfect thing for you.
Oh,
whether it is or not. I mean, it doesn't matter, because now they're thinking, oh, that's special. Oh, he knows me. Great. I know the perfect thing for you. A perfect animal. This is going to be you're really going to like this.
I like that idea.
Why are they going to like it? Because you told them they're going to like it. I mean,
I wonder if that could work for my wife. Honey, you're going to like this.
I'm not going down that path. Not here.
Now, let me ask
another seminar.
let me ask a question here now. If you hit somebody, I'm a type of talkative person. Mm-hmm. Can you, by trait, if let's say you come across somebody at a table, they're semi-talkative and they want information from you, right. A quote or whatever it is, that's one person. Then you got another person who says, yeah, send me information. Is there anything you could get from a verbal cue that kind of tells you what you really should be sending? Should be sending a lot of information, a little information? Can we get anything from these verbal cues?
So, and I think you probably have an experience that you're going to share, I would imagine, shortly here, because you mentioned it to me, you know, in arranging this call. People who ask a lot of questions want a lot of information.
Okay.
Write that down. People who ask a lot of questions, they want a lot of information. How long is your show? How far do you travel? What is the show like? All these things are indicative of people who want a lot of information. So the best thing to do in that situation is give them a lot of information. If you try to gloss over someone's 20 questions by answering them with a one-liner, it's going to blow up. You're going to have no congruency there. Yeah. And just as a side note, from a business standpoint, having been in business 20 years, personally, I wouldn't quote any money at the table that night. Get their card,
Right.
If they don't have a card, get them to give you their cell phone and email, and then you have a conversation with them after the fact. It's really impossible for me to give you a quote because I offer a wide range and variety of services. Let's chat individually so that I can figure out what your unique needs are, and then I'll be in a better position to give you a real solid quote. I would never quote money at a restaurant gig ever. That happens after you do a stage show too. We want you to come to our company. What would you charge? Here's my card. Let me get your card. Let's chat later next week. Never talk money about another gig when you're at a current gig. That's just my personal approach.
And you know, and we're all, I don't know what it is. It's that button that they push that maybe somebody wants to hire us as an entertainer and we just blurt things out.
Yeah.
And then we realize, what did I just say? What?
Stop that.
Don't work for that price.
Because think about it. You really can't give a valuable and meaningful price quote when someone just says, what would you charge? Because Dale, I would imagine you have a variety of packages. You probably have the bronze package, the gold, the platinum package, all that have different additions and subtractions. And you have no idea what this person wants. They may want you for 10 minutes. Other people may want you for 2 hours, 2 totally different prices. So you literally, if people have a hard time deflecting or deferring, I should say, the quote, keep this in your mind. You don't have enough information to just spit out a price. You literally don't. You're not lying to the person, and you need to have that conversation. And that makes sense. And then you talk about upping your game and being professional. The amateurs go out there and immediately make a quote without asking a single damn question. You know, is it indoors or out? You know, years ago, I gave up doing any type of performance outdoors. I'm very animated. I just get very hot. I don't like it. So one of the first questions I ask is, what's the venue? Oh, it's outdoor. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you calling me. I don't perform outdoors. And it saved everyone a bunch of time.
Right.
So by getting that additional information, you're now able to really hone in on their needs and give a more meaningful quote and have the potential to add more upsells in there as an offer. And if they don't want that, then you can pull it out. If you're just giving them a quote at a restaurant, the only way to go is down. You're never going to add to it at that point. It can only go down because in their head, they've already psychologically locked on to, oh, X number of dollars, that's it. And they're not going to want to hear about upsells or additional opportunities. They'll just latch on to that first price.
Now, let me follow up here with a question. Now, we're talking about, again, if they talk a lot, give them a bigger detailed information.
Mm-hmm.
In your years of experience, have you noticed, is there any difference between men and women when it comes to not being more decisive, but being?
No. So it sounds like what you're asking is, is there a gender disparity between, one group, male or female, making
yes.
quickly? No, absolutely not. Here's what I can tell you. About 18% of the population are quick decision makers.
Okay.
You've got about another 20% who can be swayed in either direction they go. They go with whoever their last great act was. In other words, you could be the greatest thing in the world, and then Joe Schmo, Susie Smith comes in. Oh, you got to see Joe Schmo, Susie Smith, best performer ever. They can flap like the wind. 40% of the population is going to want to not be rushed. That first 18%, you may be able to close them on the first or second call. But the bulk of the people out there, statistically speaking, specifically in the United States, now your audience may be worldwide, so these numbers will differ a little bit in other countries, but most of the people don't want to be rushed when it comes to making a buying decision. And then you're going to have that other sliver of people who not only do they not want to be rushed, they want to know, how long have you been doing this? Have you ever been sued? Do you have any criminal complaints against you? How long does this take? And all this other stuff. And those people, you got to really dig in deep, because if you try to rush them, you'll break any rapport that you developed instantly.
Well, it's funny you say that, because as a restaurant entertainer, I come across a lot of different people.
Oh, sure. You get them all. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
And especially when I get in a family restaurant, I can have somebody who just came off of a trade show, who is sitting there having dinner with his family they hasn't seen for a week.
Right.
And trade show stuff is still in his head. He wants to talk about trade shows, but again, his family's not there.
Yeah.
I run into teachers who want to hire for school assemblies. And I just met one who was quick to want to hire me on the spot,
Right.
But when I've kind of responded with her, I haven't gotten anything really back from her.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you're telling me that 40% of these people don't like to be rushed, I just realized something. I'm holding off on that next text message that I send to her for probably another 2 or 3 days.
Probably. And that's probably a good idea. And I will mention something else to you statistically, because I do a lot of profiles and assessment in a whole bunch of different industries. Everything from academia to medical profession, finance, technology, funeral directors even I've worked up. And here's what I can tell you about folks in academia. Not all, but we're going with the trends here.
Right.
Most people who go into academia who are teaching, and that could be at a grade school, secondary, even upper level education, they're going to fit into that 40% of people who don't like to be rushed and they want everything planned out. Now, when you step back from that,
right,
and you start to look at why is that and why does it attract those type of folks, think of an academic year. It's very well planned. It's organized out. They have to have lesson plans done several weeks in advance. That 40% who likes to plan and not be rushed and not deal with surprises, that fits like a hand in a glove. Right. Versus someone like you or I in that role, we would never have the plans done. They'd always be behind. We're kind of learning stuff on the way in. It's a different animal. So yeah, and I can tell you, if you push these folks too much, they're going to vaporize. So I would hold off a bit, see what's what. And I'm not a big fan of the, hey, just checking in to see how we're doing. You got to give them a reason why you're contacting.
Right.
One of the, did you, here's it. We'll workshop this right here. Did you get tentative dates as to when they want you, or at least a range at this point?
Yes, they gave me a month. She gave me a month that she was looking to hire.
So one of the things that you might want to do is say, hey, I just got 2 inquiries in for the month of X. I know we had chatted last week, a couple of weeks ago, about you wanting to bring me in. I want to give you right of first refusal on your preferred dates before I start working with these other folks. That's a very gentle way of giving someone a nudge, as opposed to the, I'm just checking in to see what's going on. Nothing. Right. Nothing's going on. That's why I haven't called you. But now you've got a reason, and you can't do that 2 days after the initial point of contact. When was your last interaction with this prospect?
Friday.
Oh yeah, way too soon. I would probably sit on it until next week, to be honest with you, unless they were talking about doing something in March, which is around the corner.
No, I'll sit on it. Let me tell my story. I want to tell my story.
Go ahead, tell your story.
Right. I actually took Michael's course, and
that story.
Yeah, that story I'm talking about. I actually took Michael's course, his mastermind program that he taught in this program. And I got this email about somebody who's questioning about a show, and they just had questions, and it went through an agent, and the agent came back and sent it to me, and the agent followed up and said some of the questions. And I looked at it, and my response, first of all, was, you know what? And I did this from my phone. I said, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions that you have. Just call me.
Yeah.
Hit send.
Uh-huh.
I replied to both of them. I went in, took a shower, got out of the shower, and I heard Michael's thing going, dude, he sent you a paragraph, almost, yay long of their concerns. So I went back and I sat down and I drafted. It took me an hour to respond. Yep. I literally went line by line and went through, and I sent it off to both people. And the agent called me up. He's like, wow, I like how you responded to all their concerns. You really hit the points. That person called me up and said, yeah, I want to work with you. And I was like, whoa. And they're like, just let's go. I'm ready to go now.
Yep.
And I thought
you answered all their questions. You alleviated any objections that they had based on going line by line in that email.
And it was funny because that person even took the time to call me, to talk to me, to thank me for giving all that information. And why no, when can we put this package together?
And I will tell you, if people ask for information, now I'm a verbal communicator, which is probably no surprise. I prefer talking as opposed to writing. But when people ask for very specific information in an email, you got to give it to them because that's where they're at. That's their comfort level. That's how they prefer to operate. If you would have pushed and said, look, there's too much to type here, let's just have a call, they would have probably moved on. Now, the reason you got the call in the end is because they knew that you were speaking their language when you responded and took the time. And yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the ass to sit there and type out all this stuff that you could just cover in a 5-minute phone call. But if
I just wanted to say, look at the website.
Yeah, no. You know how many times I have cut and paste stuff from the website and put it in an email? If that's how you want it? You want it in an email? Fine. It's the same stuff that's on the site. I don't tell them that. But that's the way they want it. Because the whole name of this game with entertainment, and I don't mean to rain on anyone's parade, but a mentor of mine told me this, and it was very valuable advice, and I don't think I'm passing on anything here that's out of school. And that is, when you think of it, at the end of the day, we're all, as entertainers, just an asterisk on an event.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, because they don't need us.
Right.
They don't. It's certainly a huge benefit, and it can create laughter and relieve stress and all these other great things, but they don't need entertainment. So one of the last thing that you want to do is be difficult with the person who's interested in booking you. And, a thing that you wouldn't think of being difficult might be, well, just call me. No, they want it via email. You give them stuff the way that they want, then you become easy to work with, irresistible, and that's the people who get called back. Because there's so many people out there, some qualified, a lot not, who are pitching themselves to a whole bunch of different places. If you're the least bit troublesome to work with, you're going to get cut loose for someone else because they just don't have the time. And quite frankly, I don't blame them.
Yeah, no, I have a park district that just hired me. She thanked me after the show. She said, so easy to work with you. Are you available to work? And she gave me the date. And
there you go.
Popped my calendar. I said, yes. She booked me for that. I did the show. This coming week, she had a cancellation. She called me up and said, are you available?
Oh, great.
And
yeah, you're easy. You see, that's the thing. The whole diva thing, well, I laugh when these guys say, well, I only get involved talking to the prospect once I've had someone initially screen them. I said, well, good luck with that. Whether it's a virtual assistant or this or that, that's diva crap. And these companies ain't playing, right now the economy at the time of this recording is pretty strong. The economy goes up and down. The first thing that gets cut when the economy takes a dive is entertainment.
Right.
I lived through that in 2007. You probably did too.
Yeah.
When everything, went awry. So the people who are going to be left standing are the ones who make life easy for the client. I'm not saying compromise. I'm not saying offer concessions. God, no. I'm very highly money motivated. And I think, we need to stand by our fees, but you got to make life easy for them so that it just becomes automatic and they know that there's no risk when they deal with you.
Yeah, that's true. Let me ask a question about the profiling, because when you do this, sometimes you meet with the applicant. Sometimes you're getting information.
I never meet with the applicant, which blows a lot of people's minds. Okay. I never interact with the applicant other than via email.
Now, let me ask this question.
Yeah.
Can you, most restaurant owners do their own ads or tell people what they have. Can you actually profile maybe a restaurant owner by their ads that they put together, or the things
you can? You'd be better off just chatting with the restaurant owner. They're going to tell you everything they want to know, that you want to know. Guys who and gals who make quick decisions, they're going to be more of the people who are going to be more risk tolerant. In other words, you come in and say, hey, I want to pitch a thing to you. What's your slowest night of the week? Tuesday. Good. Let's do magic and martinis. And if the individual says, hey, that sounds great, let's set something up for next week, that's a fast mover. They don't need a lot of time to think about it. So now the opposite of what I mentioned before can also get you in trouble. If you take a fast moving person who likes to make decisions quick,
right,
and you want to go line item through a 20 item checklist, you're going to lose that person too. Yeah. So it's all a matter of figuring out who is in front of you, what do they want, and give it to them the way they want it.
Wow. I find this stuff highly interesting just
I
because,
do too.
well, you're making a living at it. I haven't been able to do that. Well,
Well,
maybe I am.
but you are, because you just shared a story less than 5 minutes ago how this stuff has a lot of people, and I'm sure you've encountered this. Anyone who's a business owner, and I'm a business owner, you're a business owner. I'm going to make the assumption that anyone who's watching this owns a business, an entertainment business, whether you're just starting out or really advanced. But business owners, I have no idea where I was going with this thought. I totally
We
derailed.
were talking about the processing, the way they interact.
The way, it'll come back to me. I don't remember where I was going with that, but it was very impassioned. I don't know. Ask me something else. It'll come back.
All right. Quick question. If you wanted to learn more about this, is there, what would you recommend for possibly a beginner, maybe somebody who's got a little more depth? Do you have a blog, videos, or
I'll be honest. I've got none of that, and I really should. And for years I've been saying maybe I should put a little home study course together. It's just been a matter of time.
I'll be taking it. I'll take it.
Okay. Well, maybe this will be the catalyst to get me to do that. But the first thing is, I know where I was going. There are a lot of people. I see the thought came back. It always does. There are a lot of people who are promoting various products and programs and all this stuff, and they tell you how to accomplish these great things, and they haven't done anything.
Right.
It's like, how to become a, multimillionaire, and, they're driving a used Dodge Dart with the window smashed out of it. There's no congruency there. What I was going to say is this stuff that I do, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. The second I meet someone, and granted, I've been doing this for 20 years, but the second I meet someone, my wheels are already turning. Who am I dealing with here? How quickly do they want information? How much detail do I need to give them? And I'm forming a quick assessment in my head.
Right.
So much so that it's gotten to the point where when my wife and I go out to eat, both her and I, because she's learned by having stuff rub off on her over the years, can determine within the first 30 seconds if that server is going to give us good service or if it's going to suck. Just by the way they approach the table, how they greet us, their energy level. So back to your point, now that I got that out there, I am passionate about this stuff because when it is utilized, and you have had firsthand experience with this, It is incredibly powerful.
I get a bug flying in my office here. Sorry.
That's all right. It looked like you were responding to internal stimuli or something, but that's but to get started, I'm going to say, don't worry about reading any books. Don't worry about, that's all we need, another book to go after. Be aware. Start looking at people with a goal in mind. Airports are great for this. So anyone who's listening to this who's going through an airport, there you got a high volume of people funneling through. You got some people who are going to be slow pokes. Other people are tearing through there, even though they've got 4 hours to make their connection. You've got some people who are loud and on phones, talking. You got other people who are very quiet and keeping to themselves. Start looking at people.
Go
ahead.
You just brought something up. I remember as a kid, and my dad was in sales. He was a national salesman.
Okay.
And that's where I got the gift of gab.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember we'd go with Mom and my sister to the mall. They would go into the store and go shopping. Me and Dad would sit on the bench and just watch people. My dad would always go, look at that woman over there. Look at the size high heels that she's stumbling on. Or look. Or he would always pick out, he's like, look at the dad. He's got this huge jacket on and everything's all bundled up. And the kid's just walking around like in shorts and jeans. And it's like only 12 degrees out.
Yeah, maybe a little self-centered behavior going on there. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, looking out for number one.
Yeah, and it was funny because I always talked about, as a kid, we'd go to the mall for people watching. And maybe subconsciously, that's where I picked up that skill as a child.
Yeah, and here's the beautiful thing about it is, and I mentioned this earlier at the beginning of our time together here, people give us so much more information than you think that they would, and it's there for the taking if we just look and know what to look for. And we touched on some of these things: rate of speech, gestures, where are they leaning in, are they far back, the type of questions they ask. They tell us without telling us exactly how they want to interact with people. And if we just take that first step, in fact, that's what I'm going to challenge your listeners to do. Don't go buy another book. Even if I had something to say, it's start looking at people. Start looking at people. Start with the people you know. Start with the people who are in your family, friend, and professional orbit, who you know really well. Because I guarantee you, you can identify some people who make quick decisions. Other people are just kind of flying around and, going, right and easy in the saddle of life. Others want to kind of take their time. Others are going to pick things apart, and start to ask yourself, all right, John Smith is like this. This person who I'm had a meeting with is an awful lot like John Smith. So maybe I need to interact with this prospect the same way I interact with John. And that's how you start to utilize this stuff, so that it's not theory. I mean, theory is great in the formation of stuff to figure out if a proof of concept works, but this is way beyond theory. This stuff works if you use it. And that's one of the easiest things. Start looking at people, look at the people you know, and then when you're interacting with others out in the world, who do they remind you of from the side that people you interact with on a day-to-day basis? And that's going to start to give you a lot more information.
Wow. Okay. You
take a breath, take a moment.
You've taken me to a different level again on this.
You see, now let's talk about your behavior real quick. We'll use you as a case study right now.
Okay.
Now, I know you a little bit from this group that we're involved in and what have you, but we've never met and never really interacted with you other than via phone or video conference or what have you. But the fact that you just got so animated, you got excited, you expressed that emotion like, wow, this is exciting. Here's what else that tells me about you. It tells me that sometimes you overextend yourself because you're so excited about getting involved with so many projects. You get attracted to a lot of bright, shiny objects, and you have a hard time saying, nah, I probably need to leave that alone. No, I want to see what that is. That's cool. That's exciting. You're going to be very enthusiastic in what you do. Realize also that sometimes that enthusiasm may scare some people. It's going to scare the people who are more of the line item folks who you were looking at in that email message that you got. So there are times when we need to adjust and adapt our behavior to meet the person we're dealing with. I'm not saying to be fake. We're not talking about that at all.
Right.
But let's say your enthusiasm's at a 9 and you're dealing with someone who can only handle about a 3, you pull that back in a little bit. Because if you're too excited to the person who doesn't like a whole big emotional appeal, that's another way to break any rapport that is built. But I didn't mean to step on your excitement there. I'm sorry.
No. I'm getting older. There's not a lot of things that seem to excite me sometimes, but for some reason I find a passion about the subject. And
I'm glad. That's awesome.
It's I don't find it in my mind complicated, especially the way you explain it. I find it very interesting that I could take this and use it so quickly and fast.
See, I'm a very impatient type of guy. Gee, there's a shocker. So, and there are different ways of classifying and organizing behavior and what have you. And there are a lot of good ways out there. But this approach, you hit on what really resonated with me, and that is speed of implementation.
Right.
You don't need to spend 9 months studying something. You start looking at people, you start implementing, and the more you do this, the more second nature it becomes. And then it gets to the point where you're automatically looking at people and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this person needs a little more slower. This one's going to want a lot of thorough information. I got to do a big jam up, impressive, emotional demo, depending on who you're dealing with. And it becomes almost automatic in your response based on how you start to look at people and classify their behavior.
Right. Oh, totally agree. Well, Michael, I want to thank you for coming on. You have given us so much information. I have your website. I'm going to make sure your website is listed here in case people want to.
There's nothing to buy there, but again, maybe you're sparked the interest. I probably could put this in a home study type of thing where we cover this in a lot more detail. Where it's not just applicable to entertainers, it's applicable to anyone. That's the beauty of this. You can apply these principles when you're interacting with your family, your kids, your church members, whomever, because people are people. Doesn't matter what the context is. Behavior is going to be there. And if you start realizing committee work, if you're dealing with a committee, You're always going to have some people who are dragging their feet. Others are going to want to speed it up. You got to kind of balance all those things out. And that's how these skills come to play, because you're able to really hone in on who needs to do what tasks, and it makes life better for everyone.
Like I say, you have a skill that I just find amazing. I know my audience is going to find this amazing. Just the simple tips of moving your hands and watching for volume gestures and walking how people walk in. I mean, that's the price of admission right there. And then going into the more details that you have. I know you're up against a hard clock. We've been on for almost 50 minutes. I really appreciate what you've done.
My pleasure. I hope your listeners and viewers get some benefit from it. And my takeaway parting shot is, use this stuff. Just open your eyes, start becoming aware of people, and start with your family and work your way out. And you'll be amazed at how quickly you're able to really tune in to a level of information that has been there all along, but now you're aware of it and can actually harness it.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to stop the video recording now, but I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you did do this. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Hi, this is Dale for Unlocking the Secrets of Restaurant Entertainment. You've taken the first action step and clicked on a video and you watched it, and you may be wondering, how do I get more information? Well, this is the action step I need you to do. On the left-hand side, it says email sign up. Move your mouse over there, click on it, and you'll see that you could get more information shipped right to your inbox by simply putting in your email address, name, and last name. And what's going to happen is, in your inbox, every day you're going to get emails from me giving you tips and ideas on how to become a better restaurant entertainer. And when I open up a next session, you will be notified when Unlocking the Secrets of Restaurant Entertainment is available, and you can become an elite restaurant entertainer. So your action step right now is go over, click on email sign up, drop in your name, first name, last name, and don't forget to click that subscribe button.